Yeah, okay. I'd like to welcome all of you on Facebook and on our new channel, YouTube channel, which we'll give you the particulars of later on. The feast we're celebrating today is the Feast of St. Anthony of the Desert. And supposedly he lived in the 300s mostly. He died in 356 at the age of 105, supposedly. And he was one of the first of the Coptic church hermits. So we call him St. Anthony of the Desert. And today I'd like to discuss, before we're doing a separate talk before the Mass, and then we'll go into the traditional Latin Mass, celebrating the Feast of St. Anthony. There are two towers in the Catholic tradition, in the Catholic Church. One is the tower based on, and it's huge, the large tower is where the Pope is called Pontifex Maximus, the great bridge builder, as were the Roman emperors. It's a continuation, in other words, of the Roman Empire to a great extent. The second tower is what we're going to discuss today, and that's the Tower of Mysticism and Sacrament and spirituality. And there's no better representative of that than someone like St. Anthony of the Desert, who lived out in the Egyptian desert, eating a lot of locusts, I assume, and whatever else he could find. Obviously, it wasn't bad for his health if he made it to 105. The Tower of Mysticism, as I call it, and is metaphysical. Anthony of the Desert equals mysticism. We are going into the thin space when we enter into the mystical and metaphysical stage of spirituality. The thin space, of course, is what the Celtic monks used to call their moment of spirituality, of intense spirituality, particularly on places like Skellig Michael. And the Celtic monks were in the tradition, and they understood this. They were in the tradition of the Coptic monks of the Egyptian desert. They were successors, in a way, to Coptic Christianity of the Egyptian desert. The disciples, they were true disciples then of Coptic Christianity with an emphasis on what we call monophytism. It's where we emphasize the divinity of Christ. And some monophysites are extreme, but let's just take the more orthodox monophysites. Their emphasis is on the divinity of Christ. And they would look upon his humanity as kind of to use a philosophical term, as kind of an accident. They would see as part of him, but not a key part of him. Spirituality, in my opinion, is reality. It equals reality. And if we want to really get into ourselves and our relationship with the cosmos, we have to accept spirituality. And the game changer of spirituality in our era, it's about 50 years old now, what I'm talking about, and that's the near-death experience. Raymond Moody wrote his famous book, Life After Life, in 1975, and it's been going strong, and millions of people have had these experiences. 80% approximately positive, 20% not so much. The game changer. Why do we call it a game changer? Because so many people have had this experience, and they've been able to describe events outside of their particular theater of operation. In other words, they're able to describe activities in the hospital or wherever that are not proximate to where they are being worked on. Obviously, near-death experience involves near death. So you're brought back to the body, but you're out of the body, your consciousness is out of the body, separate from the body, and millions of people have had this. This is a true game changer. I like that term, and I'm not going to claim it. I'm going to give it to Dr. Scott French, who is going around the country talking about this very subject. So a spiritual, i.e. real, because spirituality is reality, NDE can be found in what I determine, and in the tradition of Catholicism, Eucharistic adoration, prefaced by belief in the real presence. You have to believe in the real presence to make this work. It should be taught unendingly in religious circles. Quantum physics is proving the reality of human consciousness outside the body. Eucharistic presence, if we believe in the real presence, then we can actually do serious meditative adoration and get to a place where we're in touch with the cosmos. We're in touch with the Trinity. We're in touch with what is ultimately real. That is spirituality / the cosmos. These are connections. We know there is consciousness, but we're not able to control it quite yet. We're at a bridge point with spirituality and quantum physics in terms of true understanding. I compare it to where we were at with electricity about 500 years ago. A lot of people knew that it existed, but almost nobody knew how to control it. We're at that point now with consciousness. We know it exists, and we're just opening up the possibilities of controlling it. The monks of the Egyptian desert and the Celtic monks understood the connection between what we would call science and spirituality. And we're at a time in our lives, in our Western civilization, indeed our human civilization, where science and religion / spirituality, I prefer the word spirituality, are coming together and accepting each other. The practical results of practicing the spiritual arts. Obviously, someone like St. Anthony, better health, better longevity. When we get our act together, we have more prosperity. We have less fear, especially regarding death. One of the things about people who've had the near-death experiences, nearly all of them say, we're not afraid anymore. To use the term, the Latin term, ne timere, no fear of death. That's a marvelous thing. Now, most of us will not experience a full near-death NDE. We'll just not. Most of us will go into death without an NDE. But then we have to meditate on what's here, present now. And what we're about to do in the traditional Latin Mass is experience the fullness of Christ's identity, Christ's reality. And Christ, of course, is totally connected to the very God force that created everything that is, was, and will be. The TLM is a transcendent experience. If you don't get the transcendent in it, then we're kind of wasting our time. We go into the thin space during the Eucharist. It involves the very essence of the Godhead in creation. It is especially cogent in this day and age, when we're looking for spirituality, when we need spirituality. So I would suggest as we go into the Mass that all of you who are listening on Facebook and the YouTube channel, please understand that we are moving into a relationship with the divine through the traditional Latin Mass. I call it TLM. The TLM is a divine experience for us. So let us move ahead and remember that by adoration of the Eucharist, and you just have to go into a church that has 24 adoration. A lot of them do. There's one in San Francisco, Star of the Sea, and there's one down in South City, right? And that's at Mater Dolorosa, right? So at least two of them, and they've got 24-hour adoration, and through that adoration, we reach a point where we're connecting in a very, very special way to the Eucharistic presence, believing it to be the real presence. So let's end this little talk with some simple words. 3 of them. Spirituality is reality. That's our essence. Now we will move into the TLM. Before that, I'm going to have our cantor give our particulars in what we're setting up here for the YouTube channel, etc.